Well, a very interesting time in the economy and in particularly the board director and the executive search market. And I just want to give you a briefing. Today is the 1st of August. So we're sort of in theory heading into the peak recruitment season for the year. However, I'm noticing a number of key worrying signs that would indicate that it's going to be very hard going for a lot of executives because we are seeing just an enormous amount of corporate restructuring going on across the board. So redundancies are starting earlier. We will see those redundancies continue to take place all the way through to the Christmas end of year period. Companies are pulling back, they're restructuring, and in particular, we're starting to see the announcements coming through into the market that it's really to do with artificial intelligence replacing jobs. And even very high profile companies are actually just being very transparent and saying, well, we're going to cut 150 staff and we're replacing these staff with AI systems and processes. So it's a really big warning sign of what's to come. And I've got no doubt that over the next few months, we're going to see quite a large number of mid to senior executives come into the market, and they're going to find that it's going to be challenging. It may take them longer to secure new employment, and they might have to really think of a career portfolio. So trying to maybe have a number of contracts or a number of ways that you generate that same income. At the same time, we're also seeing a lot of pressure behind the scenes on salaries. And when these corporate restructures are being done, don't expect to stay whole. A lot of the time you're being offered another position, but it might be at a lower salary position. And it's a bit of a take it or leave it approach. And so you have to be really careful when you're in those scenarios where you're potentially being released into the market that you're not, making an incorrect decision, because it may take you many, many months to secure similar, maybe even lower salaries when you go to market and you go and try and find where things are at. And I'd be monitoring, have you been headhunted during the year? Do you have a skill set that's in high demand? And I can't emphasize this enough, but I think many, many executives are going to have to retrain. And this is even mid to senior executives. You're going to have to bring new skills to the table. You're going to have a competitive edge. And so it's going to be a really interesting few months. And I'm seeing the ones that are on the front foot, they're the ones who are proactively building relationships in the market, reading the tea leaves, getting ready for what might be quite a significant corporate restructure in their own enterprise. In the board search market, it would appear just on face value, if you didn't know what I know in the industry, it would appear that there's a lack of, commercial paid board appointments. But the reality is these roles just never get advertised. And so I have a lot of clients who'll say to me, oh, well, the only things that are advertised are not for profit, unpaid volunteer type roles. But the reality is that market is just a very small percentage of what's actually going on in the board director market. And so you really have to be smart to know where the roles sit, who to get connected to, how do you identify this unadvertised board search market. And it really does come down to networks and being connected in with the right people at the right time. It's not just a case of running off and hitting up every chairperson that you know. You really have to be very strategic about your approach. And that's why a lot of people will fail when they're trying to build out a board portfolio. So the market is very interesting at the moment, and you really do have to sort of take your, cues from a number of different sources. I monitor things like creditor watch reports. I look at insolvencies in particular. I look at, what's going on in the private equity and venture capital market. A very interesting report came out during the week about what's going on in Singapore, and that market has really slowed down from a PE VC perspective. A lot of businesses struggling to get the next round of funding, a lot of things going on hold. Whereas in New York at the moment, it's just booming because everyone's trying to catch the AI wave. So So, there's pockets that are doing incredibly well, but there's also just a lot of malaise in a lot of other areas. So, it's one of those times where, I kind of advise my clients, pack your parachute, have your game plan in place. Very important that you put the investment into your networks at this time. So my key themes, a lot of corporate restructuring, artificial intelligence is definitely starting to have an impact. That is only going to increase in the months ahead. There are quality board director appointments available in the market, but they're unadvertised. They don't show up on the job boards. That means you need to be connected to the right people. And I think we're going to see, continue to see a fair bit of economic uncertainty right across the board, whether that be in the Australian context, but I just think globally there's still quite a few curveballs to come our way, particularly on financial markets. So interesting times, certainly not easy, but for those that are savvy and smart, have the networks in place, you certainly can do extremely well.